Hello and welcome to the Untitled InfoSec podcast number 1. With us today we have Jason Stone and Autumn Barrand, two alumni of the Iron Geek security podcast that's been online for a number of years now that I usually I head up. But we are trying something different. Today we're going to do our own cast. There is no Adrian here. There's just us.
We're
Now,
rebels. We're rebelling.
We are. We're rebels without a clue. So, a little bit of background about who the heck I am. I'm Frank. I work in InfoSec. I'm a penetration tester. Yada, yada, yada. I've been working computers since I'm 16 years old. We do have a little bit of a background noise from somebody's mic. I think it might be... let me just check here. Temp mute here. Nope, not you. Oh, it is Jason. It's fine. We'll deal with a little background noise.
Hold on. Let me see if I can change that.
You might want to just lower the amount of audio coming out of your mic. All right. And so I am an InfoSec guy. Jason is a passionate Linux user who actually even uses Linux as his main desktop operating system. And Autumn is, well, she's just Autumn. You know, she's awesome. Don't really need to go more about who Autumn is. Everybody should just know. We got lots of shit to talk about this week. Starting off with the Facebook downtime from yesterday, which was, I believe, Thursday. At first, the details were sketchy. I actually found out about it from a text message from my friend. He was like, hey, what's going on with Facebook? And I'm like, I didn't do it. I swear it wasn't me. And I looked into it. The too long didn't read version of this is they fucked up BGP. Oh, there we go. Now we're demonetized. Border Gateway Protocol is one of those kind of esoteric protocols that not many people know about that updates the DNS records and removes the bad ones automatically. And it would appear that somebody either was doing a routine BGP update over at Facebook. And since Facebook runs all their stuff through Facebook, when they did this update, they kind of
locked themselves out of everything.
They did. They locked themselves out of Facebook, which is kind of hilarious.
Their physical doors.
Yeah, they couldn't even get in the building.
Yeah.
Let me let's respond to the person in the chat here. I'll pass that along to Adrian. He is not on the cast this week. So we had a woman named Shayan's Dashi who posted in our chat, hey Adrian, just wanted to tell you, highly recommend Indiana Dunes National Park. Was over there with a couple of my friends over the weekend. Beautiful state, lovely people. Definitely think about moving to St. John or a similar neighborhood and commuting to downtown Chicago. I will let Adrian know you have said these things. Unfortunately, he is not with us this week. He is just hanging out at home, kind of de-stressing. I think he's kind of gotten a little overwhelmed with all the casting he's been doing over the years, and he just wants to take a break for a few weeks, which is completely understandable.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Shreyans. I didn't realize you were a dude. I misgendered somebody. Autumn, what's my punishment?
Jail.
Jail. If it were Canada, I'd be going to jail right now for misgendering somebody.
Yeah. But they're not totalitarian. Don't worry about it. They're friendly.
Right. So
They're
Facebook also locked themselves out of their doors, which is hilarious. Yeah. Because essentially everything was connected to the internet, and with no internet, well, they technically have internet, but no ability to route traffic. The access control system wouldn't even work. That controls their doors.
I never heard of the BGP until I read it.
Yeah, back in the day, if you were a Cisco guy, it was kind of ingrained into you. It's more of a router guy type thing than it is your typical InfoSec.
Yeah, it's like a router. It's like DNS for the routers or something, pretty much.
Kind of. It updates and removes routes automatically for you.
Right.
And when the routes are like bad, it when it removes them, it actually makes sure the traffic's still going to get directed to the right place, kind of like you do with like a load balancer. But when they screwed up their routes, for whatever reason, they removed all their routes, and like you could literally at one point go and try and look up where Facebook.com went via DNS records, and it would say it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, they totally cut it off to everything. It just went zilch, nowhere.
And there were some people misinterpreting what that meant on Twitter as well. People were like, "Oh, Facebook's gone forever. They've deleted everything." I'm like, "No, they deleted the routes
some people thought they did, and because the Facebook site was, some people were seeing that it was actually up for sale, that you could buy the site.
Yeah. Very briefly, you could. I wonder what would happen if somebody put in a purchase order for that and actually got it. How would the registrars even handle a situation like that?
Facebook. It's too large to be sold out the way it is right now.
Yeah, but it's all handled by like automated systems. So
people think it was due to the whistleblower, but the whistleblower didn't really say anything that.
Well, they were thinking internal sabotage also. That somebody did this on purpose.
Lots of people were thinking it was internal sabotage, which we haven't ruled out yet. I think because
I don't. There hasn't been any evidence why it could or
the timing. Correct. The timing is very suspect.
Timing is interesting. Yeah, the timing is suspect.
Oh yeah.
But that's about it. The only thing is the timing. But it does sound like something that somebody would do to screw everything up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If there was like a network admin who was really pissed off, this might be something they would do on their way out.
Exactly. Yep.
They'd probably never work in the industry again, but you know. But that being said, this is all speculation.
Well, they can start their own business,
evidence. Right. There's no evidence whatsoever that this is sabotage. This could very well be just a software glitch. You know, whatever scripts they have that are doing their record updates when they add new services and they tie together everything, it could have very easily been a faulty logic in a script or something. So
or a server crashed or something and it corrupted the data while it was updating or something.
Correct.
What do you think?
Oh, it's certainly possible. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was the Epic breach that everyone's talking about. And I actually found out about this one as well when a friend messaged me in the middle of the night. And they're like, "Hey, man, I've hosted some stuff on Epic. Can you go check if my stuff is in this breach?" Because he's not like a white nationalist or anything. He's a nice dude.
It was 150 gigabytes of data. That's
more than that, dude. So I'm gonna show you guys something really cool, really quick. So if you want to find this data for the Epic breach, it's really easy to find because they tossed up a domain, but on that domain, they only have one of the torrent files at a time. So if you want to find it, all you really got to do is you go to the website, right, which is epicfail.is, right? And on this site, they have the current, like, this is the last torrent. They have 3 torrents so far. And they show you, they have their little neon cat, and like it's a typical ASCII art shit you see with your data breaches every day. But this one actually might be another one. This is it's the 4th one now, I guess. So I don't even have this one. This one just came out. But Autumn, you might like this. Look at what they call themselves. They call them hackers on Estradol from eBomb's world. Hear your collective groans.
Well, so they're all trans, and they're all males originally.
Yeah, it might be a trans hacking group, or just a trans hacker, or somebody who's just saying they're trans for, I don't know, misinformation.
Well, yeah, this one's 113 gigabytes.
Right.
So they only must, in what I read, that must have only been the first torrent that went out.
So if you then go to, say, archive.is, right? Ooh, and because I'm on a VPN, I got to answer. All right, and then I want to look at snapshots of it, right? So I just pop in here. Let's look at some snapshots. All right, I can now see all the oldest versions, other versions that were snapshotted. And in these other versions of the website are the torrents. If you click on the torrents and you try to download them, you will get the data. Highly recommend you use a VPN if you're going to download this shit. Who knows what law enforcement will eventually do, if they're going to go after people who've downloaded it who are not like InfoSec professionals. And but yeah, that's how you can get a copy of all that breach, which includes the GOP from Texas. So I'm sure they don't want that data getting out, but it's out. So you could just hit up archive.is, and on there you pop in the URL for epicfail.is, and yeah, it's going to give you the links that you need to download that. Now, if you are going to download this, I highly recommend using a torrent client that can handle large downloads. My favorite torrent client for large downloads is Transmission, because since it kind of runs headless and then the GUI component is separated, it's less likely to crash. If you download
Transmission is great. I love transmission.
Agreed. Now, if you download something that's in a typical torrent client, like say Qubit Torrent, which is probably the most popular one after uTorrent, well, uTorrent used to be the most popular one, but Qubit Torrent will crash if you try and download a file this big, especially if you're trying to download all three at the same time. It's not really a memory allocation issue. It's more of a I can't handle files this big and I'm trying to pre-allocate and I crash type issue. So I highly recommend if you are going to download it, check out using transmission. But yeah, that's the Epic breach, and I've actually downloaded it, and I'm going to show you guys what some of the data looks like. So
What is why do they say the game's over? You lost the game. What is that? Why?
that is a meme from internet culture. You lost the game is a reference to a stupid thing where it's like whenever you think about the game, you lose it. So if you think about the game you've lost, it's old stupid shit that like weirdos like me remember, but is highly irrelevant. A lot of stuff in these NFO files, I call them. I don't know what the official word is. The text file drop that they put with the leak. They tend to be referencing very old memes from 4chan. I think it's kind of like a way for them to kind of try and connect with the audience that used to follow, and say, LulzSec and Anonymous back in the day. It's like they want to get out there that they are like that group. Like they're anonymous, and those other people are posers.
Well,
it's not...
The Epic hack they got blamed. It got blamed on Anonymous, and they interviewed Aubrey Cutter
and Barrett Brown. And the latest breach actually
the co-founders to see what happened.
They shit all over Barrett Brown in the latest release from Epic Fail as well, and the text file saying that he's not a real journalist, he's a piece of shit, yada yada yada. Now I think Barrett's actually kind of a douchebag, but at the same time he's a very amusing douchebag, and I enjoy his antics, so I can't really talk about other people. But TLDR, I got one of these image files from the latest. Oh, what did I just do? Oh, too many screens up. So I got one of these VMs actually running because they did a pure image dump. So let me show you what. That's not even it. That is not even the right box, Francis. What are you doing?
Well, they dumped the images of the servers.
Right, and those are the servers that host all the websites. So that means it's a complete dump of all the databases underlying on the websites. It's everything. It's a total of 5 files, right? And these are very large, 80 gig type files.
There was subpoenas in there also. They were saying don't notify the main registrar. Don't let them know that we're looking into them. There's a whole bunch of those in there also.
Yeah. Well, the thing, it's not just SSH keys and passwords. These are full image dumps at this point. These are actually...
the point of this,
these are server image dumps.
Like, what was the point of it?
Well,
what is the goal?
We don't know yet.
I can kind of guess.
Looks like culture war stuff, to be honest.
So from my perspective, this is about the Operation Jane, which is an anonymous operation that is targeting the abortion stuff happening in Texas, where they're banning the ability for abortions to be legal. And while I don't want to get into the political aspects of that, the reason behind this hack seems to be highly politically motivated. And a lot of my friends are actually joking about it's probably the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, behind it.
The CIA.
Well, the CIA doesn't involve itself in domestic operations, but the DIA does. He's got to go a letter up.
I mean, it could be argued they do.
Yeah, they're DIA.mil. Anyway, but the DIA is very different than the CIA in that they're allowed to interfere in local politics and shit. So I think it might be a psyop, honestly, but that's just my opinion, and I don't know shit. So, anywho, the Epic breach is epic in that these server images that they have dumped are complete dumps of the servers. So much so that when you boot them up and say, VMware, and trust me, getting this shit to boot is a little bit of a process. So you got to take the image file that was dumped and then convert it to a VHDX file that VMware can recognize, and then you got to create a new virtual machine, and then delete the VMDK that's created there and pop the one that you've created into it to kind of trick it, and then you can boot them up, which is really neat because you literally can log in, and it even has the IP address set to be the WAN IP address that it had in the leak, and you can actually go to that WAN IP now, and it's just an Apache 2 server that's been wiped. Probably would like figure out what the hell they're gonna do, but the actual IP address is still hard coded into the VM's networking, which is really interesting. And I was going through this VM last night, and yeah, it's cool shit.
Well, this is a serious piece of work to do this. It's a serious skill.
It's not just a matter of skill. There's definitely a lot of skill involved in a hack like this, but to exfiltrate this much data and not be noticed at all probably took a very long time, which meant they probably don't have any,
too. Yeah,
they probably don't have any monitoring involved at all. Like they're not watching.
What if it is like the government doing it, and that's why no one's been reported as to who really did it?
That's a good question.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Because why would they investigate themselves? They may be like, oh yeah, we're investigating ourselves, but not really.
We're investigating. No,
that cop killed someone. We'll investigate it.
Yep. Well, that's another thing.
Right.
Like when police departments investigate shit themselves, like we have our own IA department. We're going to investigate this. Some things should definitely be investigated by outside agencies, especially in InfoSec. Like if a company gets breached and they're going to handle it themselves because they don't want the shareholders to know that they were breached, so they don't even hire like a company. They just hire some InfoSec dude to look into the breach for them and put together a report.
That brings up maybe a topic for later. They're trying to get a bill passed, the ransomware bill, where you have to announce that you paid off ransomware.
Yeah. That's a big thing too. I think there was actually somebody, a network administrator, who had to testify before Congress because he had paid the ransom, and it was for Tesla, I believe, when Tesla got hacked. He had paid the ransom rather than having the bad guys release the info, and him doing that made it so that Tesla's stock price didn't tank. But the Congress people were not very happy with that. They were like,
why aren't these corporations using their own intranet for email and stuff? Why are they exposing everything to the internet?
Well, one of the reasons so many of our services are now online on the internet instead of being local is I think the work from home thing has pushed it a lot, but also the move to kind of like, we got to have everything in the cloud. Email is going to be in the cloud. Our file server is going to be in the cloud. But
that's a huge vulnerability. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's
like wearing a kick me sign. You know what I mean?
No, I would say having like a hosted Exchange server is kind of the norm now. Most people don't host their own shit anymore. They'll use like Exchange Online or some company that resells Exchange server online services.
I mean, for a big company, it can't be a huge expense to get a server and somebody to run it, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, just because you have a server, right, and it's local to your network where you have network guys who are monitoring it and you have like a SOC or something, that's great. And a lot of companies that have really sensitive data do that. But on the same end of the token, you've got a lot of companies who are more focused on growth and expansion than they are security. And as a result, they end up getting all their shit online. And we have these things like these companies toss up an S3 bucket and put all their customer data in it, but don't secure the bucket. And then some researcher just finds an open bucket with tons and tons of data, like social security numbers, credit cards, all that fun stuff. And then it's like, well, how did this happen? Well, nobody's following standards and best practices for security, so of course this is going to happen. And there should definitely be like monetary damages for companies when they do this.
I was thinking, because if they're gonna do stuff like the computer misuse and can't scrape data and stuff, they should punish companies for not securing their data then.
I think to a degree they do, but they don't know as well as they should. They should definitely have more laws about it. Like if you have,
there's something not right.
There's like this whole PCI compliance thing where if you screw up your credit card data, you're going to get fined up the wazoo. But PCI compliance is just like the tip of the iceberg of what needs to be done. Those are just like a set of guidelines and rules that you should follow. And even if you do follow them, you can still get breached. I mean, there's a million ways.
I mean, I'm not really regulation and stuff. I don't think, but I think something has to be. If you're going to be charged responsible with somebody's data, and like identity theft is a huge problem. Person that usually gets stuck with identity theft problem is a person that got their identity stole, not the people that leaked their data. There's got to be a place for a lawsuit or something there. You can't, like, if you say you loan me $10,000 as an investor and I'm supposed to give you a return on your investment, my door, and I leave it in my house with no safe or anything, just cash money, and it disappears.
Right. It's your own fault.
You're out the money. And well, yeah. But if I say, oh, no, that's your fault for giving me the money.
That's a little ridiculous, but it's a good analogy. I like it.
Treating the data.
Yeah, Jumiku actually came up with a good point. A lot of companies trust AWS more than they trust themselves. It's an attempt to externalize responsibility. And if you get into like SOC 2 compliance shit in my field, you're going to find out that a lot of being like an upper-up who gets paid a lot of money in InfoSec is all about just passing the buck responsibility-wise. It's like who's going to take the fall when shit hits the fan. So if you look at like SOC 2 compliance stuff, it's all about... Now, you get to pick what areas you're going to do, but in those areas, you better make sure you cover all your bases with documentation and stuff. And at the same time, you got to externalize the responsibility, like Bom Jumiku says, because essentially, who's responsible if this third party gets breached that you've given access to your systems, right? And then they hack your systems. It's a whole thing about who's to blame if shit goes wrong.
Yeah, but that's just scapegoating. That's not solving any problem. That's just so you fail upwards instead of getting fired like you should.
Right. And Mitchell R.
For actually not doing your job.
Mitchell makes a good point. On the mail side of things, hosting a mail server is a pain in the ass regardless. That's why Microsoft and Google Mail are available. Yeah, hosting a mail server is a pain in the ass. I mean, I have to spin them up when I do phishing campaigns, and just getting the SPF records right and all that can be a pain in the ass. That being said, if you've got a good network team, they should be able to figure out how to both secure and set up a mail server. I mean, Exchange alone is really not that hard to set up. I've done it, and I'm not even like a your typical network engineer guy. I've done it for fun, and they worked. So, I mean, it's positive.
It makes sense for a large company like Walmart, Disney, Warner Brothers. Like, it would make sense for them because they're big time businesses. But if you're like a small business in Kentucky, then
well, that's what a lot of the security companies are doing now is they're focusing on the small to medium business markets because a lot of them don't have any security. They're mom and pop shops that are just set up. They have no security in place. They got tons of customer data floating around all across their local networks. And then when work from home became a thing, what everybody did was they just opened up. They did it like the most insecure way possible. Let's just open up RDP on the WAN and give everybody their own port that they can use. That's the worst possible way. Yeah, tons of companies have done this. If you look for like Shodan, let's go back about a year and a half on Shodan. You can do historical stuff and look at how many computers had port 3389 open, and it'll look now. It's more than tripled. And those are just the companies that are actually using 3389 and not just putting a number in front of it like 1 3389 or like a 3389 1 2 3, like just incrementing for each employee, which is also a horrible idea. Get a VPN. Everybody knows, even if you're just like a YouTube person and you're watching random YouTube videos, you see all these ads for these VPN services that secure your data by just putting you on a VPN with a bunch of other schmucks who all don't necessarily have any security stuff going. That's not the kind of VPN I'm talking about. Well, technically it is, but I'm talking about like an open VPN thing, like Open VPN or any of the like the stuff that's built into your hardware. You know, all the firewalls have like VPN shit built in now. Do it securely. Also, the bad guys are going after a lot of VPNs. And Autumn actually just messaged me with a good point. We should start talking about the Autumn. What'd you say?
The Google or the Facebook whistleblower. But not only that, I think there's some stuff that might interest you both, since I don't know as much in terms of like InfoSec. Like, So the Facebook whistleblower allegedly is making claims of what Facebook has been doing and how it's damaging young teen girls. It's putting profit over people, and she has documents that she took from Facebook. Would that be legal, or does she have protection?
So she does have protection under whistleblower laws. Um, Normally, if a person just exfiltrates a shit ton of data from their employer, they're gonna face a whole swath of legal consequences for doing that,
But don't you
regardless of
have
what
to
they do
be a
with it.
whistleblower for that to actually affect you, though? She's not saying anything new.
Well, what
This would be
she's
equivalent of me
confirming.
taking information from a job and then saying, "Yeah, did you know they're doing business practices like going after profits?" Like
But
that's
it's proof,
obvious.
right?
Well,
It
she's going
is
after
proof.
profit. I mean, Facebook goes after. They care more about profits than people. I mean, but that's most companies. Most companies' sole responsibility is to their shareholders, so they don't give a shit if they're causing families to fight or friends to hate each other. What they care about is interactions. The more interactions that the post gets on Facebook, the more time the person is spending on Facebook, which means the more advertising revenue they can bill out. And if the person is staying on Facebook and spending all day on it arguing instead of, say, doing work, right, then Facebook is generating revenue. So it's more profitable for Facebook to actually cause people to argue or to
No, I wouldn't say cause. I would say make it so people are able to argue. Make it a platform where if you wanted to have discussions with people, well, you can let that outlet out on Facebook.
So Amon Palmer says that government's already on Facebook. She's getting their support hands down. And he's right. So the government is very interested in this kind of data, the data that shows the stuff that they already believe, especially. So that Facebook is putting profits before people, that they're intentionally publishing things that are causing teenage girls to want to throw up and or have poor body
Hurt
image and
themselves, commit
hurt
suicide.
themselves. Right. The thing is, it's not really Facebook's job to parent. It's the parents' jobs to parent. So if your kid's on Facebook all day and you're not watching what they're doing, you're not really being a good parent. That'd be like just letting your kid hang out with a bunch of strangers and then not. This is a horrible analogy, but like, because you should let your kids hang out with strangers. But like, just it's not good for you to not be monitoring what your kids are doing. If I had kids, I'd be watching what the hell they'd be doing online.
Well, Facebook's not going
Yeah,
out and
but
intentionally saying, "Hey, that girl's probably making herself throw up. Let's show her some more skinny girls." Like that's not what's going on.
but
It's just
they have been
happenstance.
manipulating the mood, right, or the emotions,
So
or
Facebook
mood
engaged in a
switching or
couple.
something. They were doing something,
They engage,
experiments or something, right?
They
they
did some
engaged.
internal studies.
Yeah, their internal studies
Oh,
involved
okay.
live users, and those live users were fed a steady diet of news designed to depress the shit out of them, and then they monitored their reactions as far as their mood to see if they got depressed. So that they intentionally customized the news feed to fuck with people so that they'd get depressed, and then see if it worked. Which, I mean, as far as human experiments go, is interesting.
I don't really have an issue with human experimentation,
Well, speaking
depending
of
on the
human,
type of experimentation that is.
so our friend who did those grievance studies, well, your friend, um,
Peter Boghossian.
yeah, so he did the grievance study stuff, and when he did that, they tried to take his job saying that he experimented on humans without their consent. Now, all he did was submit articles to news journals written by him and his two friends, um, and they were intentionally designed to cause shit. But
They were
it,
sent to like gender studies, women's studies, black studies, things like the social science journals.
Yeah, all the
correct.
soft sciences.
Yeah.
Right. So they essentially got these articles published, and this is kind of old news, but I'm drawing the parallel here because it's human experimentation. It's at least what they're calling it. So if Facebook customizes a news feed for somebody to intentionally see if they can alter their mood, is that any different than sending an article to a publication that would then publish it and that could alter other people's mood? Where's the difference?
Well, the one thing, it's there's a review board that goes over or is supposed to go over those things. So it's actually a system not a
Yeah,
person. That's what claim that they had fell flat. And he did end up leaving PSU finally.
Yeah, I saw. Actually, I wrote an article
I
about
hate
that
to
with
say.
Autumn. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was the only person there pretty much by himself. The whole place has gone to hell.
There's a few people left. The author of the journal entry, "The Case for Colonialism," Dr. Bruce
Yeah.
Gilley, is still there. There are
Oh yeah,
people I
he's a
know
good
there
guy.
that I can't name, but there are people
Oh, that's
who I
okay.
know that are
Well, that's good.
kind of like trying to lay low.
Exactly.
But I have sources telling me stuff like PSU, because of their business model, for example, they're in financial exigency at the moment, or
What's
were
that?
until
Exigency?
exigency,
Oh.
exigency,
Oh, does that mean they're out of money?
pretty much,
Okay. Well, if PSU is indeed out of money,
and
I'm
they
sure
owe
they're
money too. I
everybody
believe.
owes money. I'm sure they're going to get a lot of those federal government grants. I think 100 million was just given to them recently, if memory
Yeah,
serves.
Biden.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily Biden, but a plan that he
No,
signed.
they recently got a lot of money from Biden.
That would be like saying I got a phone from Obama, and Obama didn't send me a phone. Nobody sent
What?
me a phone.
That's not a
It's
fair comparison.
it's saying
It was
Biden gave him
actually
the
a
money. It
Bush.
wasn't,
Actually, Bush gave him the phones,
and regardless of
even though they got called Obama phones.
regardless of who, I'm just saying it's a bad comparison
Yeah.
because it wasn't Biden that gave them the money. It was the whatever bill Biden signed into law that was actually done by, say, the Congress and Congress, Senate, all that shit that goes into making a bill that then gets money. That's who gave them the
Well,
money.
who was behind the bill? Because sometimes the president will recommend that Congress pass something.
Yeah.
And the Senate, and he'll recommend something, and then they go hash it out, or sometimes it's one guy, or sometimes a political action committee will do it.
Yeah. Well,
and get somebody to.
I'm not really sure. That's
Well,
actually a
my
good
problem with
question.
the whistleblower is that
Answer it.
she's taking circumstantial evidence, small bits of information that's out there, not a lot of context, and then providing her own personal bias context. And this is someone who also thinks that they're not censoring enough on Facebook. So certain ideas, like if probably saying, "Oh, I'm not going to get the vaccine because I don't want to get autism," and then they might take I forgot Jim Carrey's account down off of Facebook. Like she wants more content tracked, and she's also saying that the images being fed to young girls is harming young girls, but Facebook's not doing that on purpose. It's just an open platform. Last I checked, before, I think Mark Zuckerberg has made stances about being a free speech advocate at the same time. So it makes sense
that was like 3 years ago when he was claiming he was all for free speech. That's before he completely outsourced all of the fact checking for Facebook to companies that get this certification called fact checking whatever. And these companies tend to be very leftist liberal media outlets. They get the certification, and then when they do the fact checks, they can impose their own bias into the fact check, and then anybody who posts an article that goes against that gets fact checked, and their shit gets taken off social media.
Yeah, so this is basically like seeing I hate the term SJW, but it'd be like seeing an SJW becoming president of the United States, or trying to put pressure on Biden to do certain things, like, and him actually bending to the will of Antifa or something, because what Facebook is doing is, like, it's a business. It's they can do what they want. If they want to go for profits over safety, that's their choice. You don't have to use their platform. It's completely consensual. It's a business. It's also not a government, so they don't have to appear or appeal to her wishes of preventing more conspiracy theories, which is just a term colloquially used to deny something, as like something like, oh, the Twin Towers, that's a conspiracy theory, so it must be false.
Yeah, the CIA came up with that in the '60s to discredit radical.
It's just a discrediting tactic, basically.
Yeah,
and
it's not.
That's why I don't believe anything she says.
Last
I
couple
don't
years
stand with the Google whistleblower or the Facebook whistleblower. She hasn't made anything that makes me think that Facebook deserves to be investigated.
Right.
At
Well,
least I don't think what she's saying. Like she's saying things like, "Oh, girls are it's bad for the mental health." Well, of course, we've known this for years. Ben Shapiro's even said this. We've known this for years. We have, you see, open up a Playboy magazine or Vogue magazine, and you see like these absolutely just beautiful standard women or standards for women, and then you have these people who don't match that, and they feel depressed. It's not
Well,
Facebook's fault
a
to
lot of that is
go like
advertisement.
that.
Advertisement in general is like anti-mental health. If you want to have
Mhm.
good mental health, don't look at advertisement. Advertisement is the worst thing for you. And what they found that like the tech guys, they don't let their kids use social media, like Zuckerberg or whoever else. They don't let them. They don't let them look at Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
They don't even let them use devices. Actually,
Oh wow, really?
yeah, but they won't let them use like tabs
yeah, I actually, I've seen cases where parents were accused of child abuse.
or
They were accused of child abuse for not letting their kids have the internet, which is a little ridiculous.
I mean, imagine if you were giving your views why you didn't want to take the COVID-19 vaccine on Facebook and you got shadow banned or something because you said something that was misinformation. Kind of like what YouTube did to us on another podcast, Francis, where we were dismissing the claims and countering the claims with evidence of what the vaccine actually was versus
Right.
anti-vaccine claims. And
Let's not talk about that. We don't want to get Adrian's channel banned again.
oh no, I'm just saying, like you people just preemptively ban people for just random content, and that's what this whistleblower is trying to do. She's wanting to control, and she's trying to get control over the company, and I think that's what her plan is trying to influence the company to do what she thinks is best.
Right. I think
But she's not whistleblowing anything. She's telling us old news, things we've known for years.
right. But regardless of that,
So I think she doesn't qualify for the Whistleblower Defense Act, and I think that since she took this data, she should actually be charged with stealing information from a business.
So, do you think it was just a pure is a conservative or leans right or the center versus, or is
so
anti woke at least versus a profit motive
so
type
I was highly
thing?
highly skeptical.
Because I didn't have a check to look into it. I didn't look into it yet.
The Facebook whistleblower stuff.
Yeah,
I was
I haven't
watching
had a chance to look at
Uh,
the
it.
60-minute interview when it was on YouTube, and I just kept cringing, like, okay, what's your evidence? Okay, what's your evidence? Where are you getting this connection from? How do you know their motives? And she's making a lot of grandiose claims,
Okay.
So
appealing
that
to a lot of emotion too.
right, but I'm thinking she might have good motives, right? Like we don't know what her motives may be. She might not just doing this because she wants to be famous or something.
No, I'm not saying that. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right, but
I don't agree with Rose City Antifa and what they've turned my city into, but I know that they're not doing it because they're just fuck everyone. Like they think they're doing good. They think they're being the morally righteous people.
I know that's what they think, but my point was more to the intentions of why this person would steal and leak data. Now, if you have a good job that pays well at a major tech company, to not just go along with the status quo and keep your job and your money and your status, it's got to be something that actually really bothers you. And she claims the thing that put her over the edge was that her brother, I believe, was radicalized by right-wing online content. And as a response to that, she is kind of blamed Facebook for this. It's Facebook's fault. They didn't stop this from happening. There weren't the controls in place that should have done this. And,
but I have plenty of sources, having worked as a journalist, where I've seen some of my sources advocating for violence. I've seen them radicalizing other people, using their platform for radicalization to the left. And these are left-wing people, and these are major people. Gregory McKelvey is just one person, and now he's with the DNC.
Right. But my point is more to like when I met Zach, the Google whistleblower at an event, I thought at first the guy was I really questioned his motives. Like, why would he do what he did unless he maybe just wanted to be famous and like you know? But
It
turned
doesn't
out
have
that
to
was
be serious, though.
Well, a
right.
lot of people do stuff that's against their initial best interests. You know, a lot of people will do that sometime if they, like Autumn said, think they're doing the right thing, or there's a greater cause, or for the, like, I hate this term, the greater good. You know, if
Hmm.
they think there's a bigger thing, they'll put that at risk to try to get something that they think, especially if they think it's right. You know.
Yeah, because like James Damore went against the status quo when he wrote his memo to and published it to like all of Google, and it was leaked out. Um, like I don't think he was trying to do anything to get famous. Like, and thankfully he has a job
He
now.
was just
But
trying to help the company, to be honest, and he was
yeah,
surprised at the result that he got. And he was told to be quiet and a bunch of other stuff. And he was like, he didn't understand what was going on, and his eyes opened up to what was happening inside of Google.
yeah, it was a horrible face slap to
Yeah,
reality.
yeah,
Luckily, he has a job now, and he's posted some of this trippy looking art on his Twitter that's completely AI generated.
nice. Oh wow,
Really.
they can do so much amazing stuff with machine learning these days.
Oh yeah,
Computers can write whole articles these days. They're not the best, but they're tolerable for the average American's reading comprehension level.
it's true. I wondered though, in looking at some of the pictures, like the way the faces and bodies were distorted, it makes me wonder, like, what would an AI think of, and how does it see the world, and how does it see humans? Like, I imagine
Well, it
we're
doesn't
very
because
freaky to them.
we really don't have AIs. We have machine learning.
Oh,
There's no such. We really don't. The computer really isn't intelligent. It's what you did is you basically trained a calculator to react to things a certain
oh,
way. What you do is you split off. It's not that hard. You can program one in like less than 100 lines of code or something. But you what you do is you weight the dividers, and it ends up sorting things out into to little like kind of flow charts of the data, and then you'll get the results. So it'll take a piece of data, look at it, what is this closer to? Like you can do it with a picture. If I go like this, right? It'll say and then I have one like this, and then I have one like this, and then I have one with no hands.
yeah,
You can train it, and you say if there's this, there's one with hands, and then no hands. It'll filter all the ones with no hands into one. It'll filter all the ones with hands, and then it'll filter again and again and again to where
yeah,
if it can, you can say see one thing and one thing, and then eventually, if you show it a bunch of different pictures of me doing this, it'll filter them all out. And what AI does is it takes a lot of data, does pretty much the same thing. Like if you look at reCAPTCHA,
mm-hmm,
same thing. We're not training, the computer's not training us to pick out what is what. We're training the computer. The computer needs to know what's a fire hydrant versus the background.
yeah.
So you're checking what, this is a fire hydrant, this is a fire hydrant, this is
So
a
these
fire
are like
hydrant, different
components to
pictures.
what would be in the future in AI. These are like parts of its brain functions, right?
Well, yes, it's kind of like it's basically what we can do. We can train a dog. Say the computer, we can train the dog, but we can't make the dog.
Yeah.
We can do the training for the dog. We've got the training. As far as an actual AI for a computer that thinks by itself and is self-aware, we don't have that.
Not yet.
But
Well,
it's called learn AI because the computer can mimic learning.
it can mimic it, but even and sometimes they can even pass a Turing test. But the thing is, it's not
Yeah.
it's not the same kind of intelligence as like human intelligence. It's a different beast altogether. It follows like decision trees, and then it can branch off and make some decisions on its own based on the data that it gets. But if you want to talk true like AI, they actually did this cool thing with ASICs a while back, where they trained it to recognize certain sounds. ASICs being programmable logic boards that are very similar, like to a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino, but they're much more geared towards just one kind of task. And they actually had an ASIC that would reprogram itself over and over again as it got feedback, as if is this the sound that I heard right, or if it sound wrong. And eventually, without any human interaction at all, it could tell whether the sound it heard was the one that it's heard before or not. So it's cool stuff, but it's not nearly at the level the movies make it out to be. You know, the movies make it like you're these super intelligent machines like Skynet that are just going to mess us up.
Yeah, well, they have like we're almost all of code is going to be written by computers. A lot of code is already auto-generated by computers.
True. I think more to the point is that the computers are not going to get intelligent enough anytime soon to destroy humanity. I think that's everybody's like worried, like they're gonna get super smart and just destroy us all. And
well, we're only like to 2005. There's going to be more computing power than there is human brain on the planet. The problem is that that's all the computers in the world versus all the humans. One human, there's no computer that is anywhere close to being as smart as one person, or even a cat, probably.
But there are chatbots that can fool people and have been used in
scams.
They can.
Well, they can mimic, just like they can play chess or play Jeopardy or something. They'll do weird things every once in a while. Like if you watch the Jeopardy playing one, it'll just say something weird and random for no reason. But they probably got that worked out by now.
Yeah.
I remember in high school, there was like 2010, I was in Arlington High School, and there was this like not AI, but this machine learning website where you could talk to the computer and it would talk back to you. It was pretty easy to tell it was a computer though. And then they did that.
They're really good. They're really good now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, how can you tell it's a computer is the question. If you ask it, are you a computer? It's going to say no.
Well, you wouldn't ask that. You just ask a question and see if we can connect logical connections. And so if you start jumping from topic to topic and it doesn't notice, it's probably a computer.
True. No, I was getting more to the AIs that we've got right now are not like what we're never mind.
It's not Skynet. It's not Ultron. It's not Vision. It's not any of these fictional stuff that we see in the movies. And even if
I'll be right back.
Okay. Like if you got like an Ultron, like since Ultron's kind of trending right now with the Marvel's What If, I would say that like that's only possible like Skynet if something happens to the programming or it's maliciously programmed to be that way. Because I think if a computer can learn and think for itself, I think it's going to get to a point where it's not going to see any like logical point in killing off humans like you see in Terminator.
Yeah, I think
it's a cute poetic story of a what if, and I think that's as far as it will go.
Peace in our time.
I think people that fear this technological singularity are mistaken and watch too much Hollywood movies.
True. So, Anani Badger brought up a cool point that the thing I was talking about with FPGAs, they wouldn't replicate to the other board. That was actually interesting. Yep. That was cool shit back. It was an old story too. Long story short, I got the VM up of that machine I was talking about. I had it up on the screen before while we were casting, but I don't think anybody really cares. So, but long story short, you can take those images and boot them up and play with them. I highly recommend you do because there's probably some really interesting data on those that you might find easier if you are navigating the file system via shell than if you're trying to, say, brute force it over like a web interface or something with like That's actually not at all how you'd be doing it, but I meant like looking through the individual files themselves for shit. Hey, it's freaking Bill Gardner. Love that guy. What's up, Bill? Bill Gardner is one of my favorite professors, even though I've never taken one of his classes. And it seems Jason has disappeared from the cast completely.
He said that. He
Oh,
said
he
he'll
did?
be right back.
Oh, I was just so involved in talking to myself.
Oh, yeah, it's all about you.
So, yeah.
So how about them Lakers?
There's still time. Hey, Bill, you got any online classes going? Yeah, we've got Facebook in the news. We talked about that. We talked about the Epic breach. We talked and showed you how you can get the data from the Epic breach if you're so inclined to want to find it and download it. Other things in the news, tech-wise, recently. Jason, is there anything that we've posted in the articles dump that you might want to talk about?
No, I brought up the act, the Ransomware Act. That's the only thing that really caught my eye.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
the Paragon thing. Is it the Paragon, the Israeli firm that does the cell phone software?
absolutely.
There's a big that they're not allowing governments to use their stuff anymore. They're not giving them updates. They've pretty much shut them down because they don't like what they're doing with the tools.
Yeah. So it's called Pegasus, and it was an
Pegasus.
Israeli.
There you go. Yeah, Israeli firm. Yeah.
Yeah. From my understanding, what happened was one of the countries that had been misusing and abusing that tool to spy on journalists, they finally were like, you know what? We're not going to sell this product to you anymore. NSO Group, yeah.
Yeah.
NSO Group finally grew a backbone and we're like, hey, we're not going to sell this to you because you keep using it to screw with journalists. And if you listen to Darknet Diaries, they did a whole episode, I think it was episode 100, on the NSO Group, and it's very, very good. Talks about how they pretty much know that their tools are being misused, but unless it kind of comes out publicly that that's what's happening, they just don't say anything. Like, they'll keep quiet. But when like shit hits the fan, like a journalist dies, and then they find their phone, and on the phone they realize that they had just been their cell phone had pretty much just been geolocated using that spyware, and then a van drove by and killed them. That kind of shit is like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Look, it's Mr. Beans.
Nasty set of tools. Yeah, there's Beansies.
Beans.
That is a cute kitty. You know, you get that kitty in frame, we might even get more viewers. I'm pretty sure that's how it works on the internet. The
He's running around. Yeah.
He's a cute little one.
Well, I started this, and he came in here. He didn't want to be out there in the other room.
Yeah.
He likes hanging around me.
I have a question for both of you. Have either of you met or heard anyone who actually is mad about the U.S. selling nuclear submarines to Australia?
France.
No.
No, France. No, it was the deal. We cut in line in France, and we sold them the submarine.
Yeah, that's why they're mad.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find a single person who's like, oh, darn it. This is
It's
bad.
more about the relations between our country and France, because France actually withdrew their what the hell are those people called? The diplomatic diplomat. There you go. They removed the diplomat, and they're like,
Ambassador?
nope. Yeah, that guy too. They both of them out. Ambassadors, diplomats, everybody out.
Of where? Of U.S.?
Yeah, we they removed their ambassador, I believe. I don't remember really.
Kicking out the U.S. ambassadors and other officials because of it.
Yep. As a reaction,
this is really stupid.
A lot of people yesterday had wanted to go on the Oculus Quest platform, and they couldn't because Facebook was down. So some people have now created a project as a result of that called Upload VR, which lets you unlink Facebook from your Oculus Quest 2, so you can log in without the need for Facebook. Yeah,
nice.
That's kind of neat. In other news, we have there's a team of more than 40 investigators. Mostly they're like former law enforcement people, and they came together and they actually claim that they've identified the Zodiac Killer. He did actually.
Yeah, I saw that.
The guy died 3 years ago, but he actually has these very unique scars on his forehead that are on the amended drawing of the individual they suspected of being the Zodiac, as well as the picture they have of him. I don't think that's the only evidence, obviously. They actually have a whole thing on the casebreakers.org where they talk about how they were able to figure it out, which is really clever shit. It's apparently if you.
Yeah, I hate to say it though. This is the fourth time they've found this guy. You know,
Well, this
not the case breakers, but just in general, somebody they find him every 5 years or 10 years or something.
this time, the evidence that they have is that if you take his name, his full name with his middle name, and you put it into one of his letters in
The ciphers, yeah, it
the
comes
cipher,
out.
it literally cracks the cipher just using his name. Like his
Yeah,
name was the cipher.
but
So, it's like,
if you watch the movie with uh who played the Hulk in Avengers?
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo,
Um,
and
I know which one you're talking
what's the
about.
other
It has
guy?
Robert Downey
Harko.
Jr. in it too, I think.
Gyllenhaal, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes.
If you watch the that movie, they found him and they found his name and that guy's name in the thing too, and he died also. So
Well,
that's an old movie. That movie's kind of in the 2000s,
I think it was like 2005.
10 or something, 5, something like that. So
so if anybody out here is a web server dude and they like configuring web servers and they rely on PHP, they should know not to use the disable
oh
functions.
yeah, the PHP vulnerability. Yeah, I saw that too.
Right.
That's a big one.
So if you're
And it's been out for 10 years. They still haven't patched
exactly,
it.
it's ridiculous. 10 years, and it still works, and it's still writing. They're still writing PHP code exploits for it, which are actually really
Well, it's been updated. They're on like version 7, and this happened on version 4 or 3.4 or something silly. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, so what they did was their fix to it was essentially looking for the characters that were used in the exploit. So you can use the same exploit if you just do a little messing around with the encoding of the characters, essentially.
Yeah, hex characters or something.
Yeah, there's some fun shit you can do. Look at the POC
Wow.
code; it's in there. It's good stuff.
I saw that.
Yeah. Well, next we've got
It's on the GitHub.
yeah. Comply or Die. So there's a conference I've been to called Myth-Informed. It's put on by, I believe, some YouTubers who are popular amongst a more conservative crowd. And they like to foster open debate where they have like a stage and people get up and they talk and like they
Nice.
debate each other on different topics, which is kind of a lost art when you think about it.
Yeah.
But they just tweeted out this thing that I found pretty interesting about the transplant team over at the University Colorado Hospital. And they've actually determined that people who are on the waiting list to get like an organ transplant will be removed from the organ transplant if they don't get their COVID vaccine. But at the same time, some of these people have life-threatening illnesses that if they do get the COVID vaccine, it could exacerbate it if they have any reactions. So
Well, that's why I waited so long to get the vaccine, because I was not only worried about future stuff, but I was worried about having reactions to the vaccine.
right.
You know,
I get that. there's
everybody
some
says just
hesitancy,
take a
but-
week off and be sick is fun until you're the person that's got to be sick for a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you got to get it twice with some of them, with the Pfizer and the Moderna or whatever. You got to get 2 shots, so that's 2 weeks of being sick. That
I mean,
you
some
know.
people can't afford it, I'm sure, but let's try and to stay
I
away
bet.
from.
Well, there's a. Oh, go ahead.
Let's try and stay away from the vaccine topic because
Oh, sure.
Facebook and YouTube have a really bad habit of essentially using
Fake
speech.
flag it, yeah.
They use speech to text software, and if they come across too many keywords, they flag a video. And it doesn't even have to be like a human person flagging the video. It can be
Right. No, they do it with the algorithm.
right, and the algorithm flags your videos often enough, and your channel is already demonetized. They'll just kill your channel. And at this point, I'm pretty sure Adrian's is already
What
demonetized.
channel are we on? I didn't look.
We're
Is this Adrian's channel we're on?
on Adrian's, mine, and we're also on my Facebook. We're simulcasting.
Nice.
Not that anybody watches it on my lame ass freaking YouTube channel, which I don't think I ever upload anything to it important. But Adrian.
Well, you always broadcast the Adrian's thing.
Yeah,
on your YouTube,
I
right?
put it on there, but nobody watches it on mine. They watch it on Adrian's. I get like 9 viewers.
I look at it on your channel.
You're probably my one viewer. So the next thing is, so the ransomware law would require victims to disclose ransomware payments within 48 hours. And this is to help counter the skyrocketing cybercrime criminal threat. And they're calling it the Ransomware Disclosure Act. Of course, Pocahontas is behind it, as well as Deborah Ross. And this is going to be like, hey, if you paid in Bitcoin, which is intentionally designed to be anonymous, it's not the greatest at doing that.
It's not. You can track.
It's not the greatest at doing that.
Bitcoin,
Monero being better for privacy, as well as Pirate Coin.
Yeah, Monero is way better. Even Ethereum is better for privacy than
right. There's
Bitcoin.
lots of coins out there that are geared towards people who are trying to be secretive or private, and Bitcoin is not the best one for that. But it is the most common one that threat actors ask for. So they're trying to legislate this essentially because of what happened with the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack, which the article claims that led to a shortage of gas in the northeastern United States.
There was another one for 11 million, and then the Colonial one, and then there were like 2 more big ones that were targeting the infrastructure. Right. I think the meat packing plant and something else.
It was water, I believe. They were screwing with the
was it?
Water treatment plants, yeah.
Oh wow, that's bad news.
And there was the meat processor, JBS. They paid an 11 million ransom. They should have just had backup stuff in place. But I guess, like, even if you have backups,
people warned 20, 25, 30 years ago, don't put public utilities access to the internet. Don't open them up to that. They said this a long time ago. There's smart meter problems. There's all sorts of problems that people can get into stuff, and it creates a nightmare. It's just lucky we haven't really been hit harder, to be honest.
Right. And I see Autumn here just started playing City Skylines, so I'm gonna have to call her out on that.
I'm so bored during this cast. I'm gonna freaking play Skylines.
So that probably. Anyway, they got the FBI actually had the decryption key for some ransomware not so long ago, and rather than give it to, say, the meatpacking people who needed it, they let them pay the 11 million because they didn't want the ransomware group to know that they had that key, because with the decryption key, it's like the master key; it'll decrypt everything, as opposed to, say, the individual keys they use in the key exchange process for individual victims. Like, this would be the key that you could use to unlock everything.
How do you think they got that? Do you think they hacked it or had an informant? That sounds more like of an informant, like somebody gave it to them.
Yeah.
Than they actually got it themselves.
I'm not sure how they got it. I don't think the article even mentioned it. It's just that the FBI had it, and I'm sure they probably wouldn't.
Well, that's the first thing I want to know.
Well,
that's the first thing I want to know is how they got that.
How did FBI get Bitcoin? No, get a decryption key. Let's see if that comes up with anything. So the FBI decision to withhold the Kaseya ransomware decryption key still stirs debate. Washington Post reporter Ellen something and Rachel wrote this week that the FBI managed to obtain the decryption keys because they accessed the servers of REvil, the Russian-based criminal gang behind the massive attack.
Oh, so they did. They
popped them. Yep. The question of how they popped them is a whole nother thing. Maybe they actually got the servers physically, like they did some kind of
that
legal
sounds
thing,
like what they did. It sounds like they got a hold of them physically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, recently there have been a lot of takedowns, and they tend to just do it via, like, they'll kill the DNS that the ransomware is using and sinkhole it, or, but now we're seeing more and more of these actually going after the physical servers and taking them, which is how they used to do it.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with those guys in the Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
That were labeled, that went after the pipeline one, right?
Yeah.
I forgot what they're called. Danger something?
Not sure.
Dark Side.
Oh, very good.
Dark Side. There you go.
Just thank DC Comics. That's how I remember.
Well, REvil actually, like, vanished from the internet. Nobody knew what the hell happened to them. They just went dark. And it looks like they
Well, if they got Sinkhole, that'll do it. If they got their servers taken.
Yeah, I think that what might have happened is the government over in Russia, even though they're usually pretty soft on cybercrime, when they screwed with the infrastructure of the U.S. that we need to actually do stuff, and they risked an international incident, the government decided to actually go take their servers and maybe toss them in jail. You know, it's like it's one thing to screw with like minor businesses in the U.S. when you're a Russian company doing ransomware attacks. When you start taking down critical infrastructure of another company that can lead to an international incident, I can certainly see them tossing a bunch of people in a van.
Well, it could lead to more economic sanctions because we already have a bunch against Russia right now,
Yeah,
and and people don't understand economic sanctions. It might seem like it takes a long time to do something, but it really hurts the country. It really hurts the country.
yeah,
You know, they might just not change their mind or do something or whatever because they've got a horrible government, but it hurts the country bad, especially a big market like the U.S. because Russia was open to us for a while, you know,
right.
and it's not
There's
anymore, and it kind of sucks.
yeah, there's actually a site where you can see how much has been paid in ransomware called Ransomware, but as in where as instead of where. Let's see if I can get that up
I
there.
get it.
Yeah, it's clever. Let's see if I can pull it up. Yep. So this is the site, and they track all the payments. It's a lot of money goes to ransomware, dude. Look, and a NetWalker made a shit ton of money. DarkSide really not so much. NetWalker made twice as much as Revil.
Is that only $100 million?
I don't know. I've always been bad with numbers that are large with multiple.
That's $100 million.
commas.
Is that just ever or just this year?
It's since they started tracking it, I believe. They say all time,
Oh.
but I think it's more like this is
All
we
time
could
since
narrow-
they started.
this year.
When
they've
they
only
start
got, like-
tracking it.
Oh, that's in Bitcoin though. That's not in the U.S. dollars.
Oh, that's Bitcoin. Holy no way.
yeah.
Oh
If that's
my
in
lord.
Bitcoin. 100 million in Bitcoin. That's math I can't do.
Oh my God, that's
But
a
let's
lot
just
of
say
money.
100 million in BTC, and that would be if we were to convert that into U.S. dollars, a very large number. So we go 100 million BTC to USD, and that is whoa, a big number. It's like 5.5 billion. If I'm getting my
Yeah, I
decimals
was gonna
right,
say that's what I say. No, that's
trillion.
trillion.
Is it? I'm bad with decimals.
Yes,
It's a lot of money.
millions right here, billions right there. That's 5 trillion.
Damn.
Yeah, 5,500,000,000.
That's what I thought. There's way. That's what I thought. I didn't. That's why I was thinking 100 million is a low number.
Yeah, that is trillion. I'm just bad at math, which is ironic since I work in IT. Everyone thinks people in IT are all good at math. Some of us suck ass at math. We're just good at other shit. Okay, so yeah, because they had the keys, man. They could have given the keys to them rather than let them pay the money. Yeah. So the coins is the question. Where do these coins go when they leave these wallets? I bet you could track ransomware affiliates pretty easily if you knew their Bitcoin addresses that they like to get paid out in. And then you can maybe track where these affiliates were. Oh, wait, if you don't know what an affiliate is the people actually conducting their ransomware attacks. And what they use is ransomware as a service, which is like a company that will set up ransomware operations for you. And all you got to do is know a little bit about computers, and you're off to the races without any real skills. You're just script kiddie shit that's been outsourced. So these affiliates are just like script kiddies. They get the stuff. They're just cyber criminals. They go, they hack stuff, and then instead of paying the affiliates directly, what they do is they pay the group, and then the group pays the affiliates. And they even have like customer service centers and shit. So like when you get hit with ransomware, there can be like an 800 number you call, and no, not 800, but a number you call, and you talk to a bunch of people, and they're like,
Guy
yeah,
from
you got.
India answered. Hello, how may I help you today?
Hello, I'm going to walk you through how to purchase the Bitcoin. First, you need to get your bank account, log in, and
Kind of
give me
sound
the
German
info.
there a little bit.
I know, I'm not good with accents, dude. Yeah. Anyway, I would use Monero if I were a threat actor because it's less likely to get tracked. Nonetheless,
Well, aren't the things that you track on Monero encrypted?
the blockchain explorer thing.
Yeah, isn't the blockchain encrypted on Monero?
I don't know enough about cryptocurrency to answer that. I think maybe.
I don't know. I was looking into it for a while. There's some that are safer.
Yeah, I'm not really a crypto expert. That's more.
I had a little bit of crypto for a while, but I got rid of it to pay my credit card.
Same here. I had a bunch of Bitcoin and I cashed it out because I had bills. Bills are more.
Well, here's the thing: you can always buy more. It's not going anywhere. There's a ton of crypto.
It's going up is where it's going, and when you buy more, you're gonna get less. But yeah, I got nothing else.
It doesn't matter how much. You buy some more and it goes up. It's up. If you look at the overall, they're all going just straight up. And until there's some or something.
Right. Well, everybody's looking for the next Bitcoin. Everybody thinks that whatever coin they have found is going to be the next Bitcoin, and people heavily invest, but at the same time, they also
Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. What are they talking about?
Well, I'll start a new
which
one called Barron Coin, and we'll see if it takes off.
Yeah, Barron Coin.
You can make your own crypto. It's not hard.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The guy who created Dogecoin was actually shitting all over crypto recently online. He came out of the darkness after 10 years of not posting just to crap all over crypto.
Well, he made Dogecoin it was a joke coin,
And because of Elon, it became a very valuable asset for a little while. I think it's still high up there. And now there's even an imitation. There's even an imitation coin called Shiba Inu, which is, it's not even worth a penny yet, but people are buying a shit ton of it on the hopes that because it's somewhat related to Dogecoin, people will buy it. Meanwhile, Dogecoin was a freaking joke. Doge to the moon was a joke. It was never meant for people to actually. That's what happens when you get trolls.
Yeah.
You get a troll and he becomes a billionaire and he starts tweeting stuff and people take him seriously. One time, Elon Musk tweeted some stupid shit like use Signal, use Tor, right? And morons went and bought the Signal stock that's not even for the Signal program because that's not publicly traded. It was for some other company called Signal that hadn't been in business for 3 years. And they just still had stock. And the stock was just pump and dump.
Yeah, and it just happened with Dogecoin. Because I bought it at 5 cents and sold it when it was at 36 or something. Because I bought it right before it went up.
Yeah.
Because what's his name said something. The guy you're just talking about. He said something about it. That Tesla is going to be taking it or something, and it went through the roof or something.
Yeah.
I love Elon Musk.
It's kind of funny that when that kid got...
Oh, he's ridiculous.
That 18-year-old from Florida, when he hacked Elon Musk's Twitter account and a bunch of other ones, using the Twitter support
that
tools,
was hysterical.
And he tried to do a Bitcoin scam. He's send me money and I'll send you back twice as much. And people will send tons of money.
That's how you end up in jail.
If you had access...
that wasn't really him. That was someone who hacked into his account.
Yeah, and if you're going to use that kind of access to do essentially a Bitcoin pump and dump, you're just a moron. That's a wasting really good access. You could have sold that shit to Russia or anybody else, and they would have paid a fortune.
You could have just sat on that and not done anything. You know what I mean?
You could be reading Elon Musk's
just sit there and
private messages
data.
forever.
What I'm saying, exactly.
Yeah.
Because who's going to find out?
Well, I think it would probably get caught eventually. I mean, the kid did get caught.
Eventually.
But to publicly tweet the same nonsensical tweet with the same wallet address from multiple rich people's accounts is just a waste of really good access.
That's just dumb.
I agree. Yeah, she should have laid low and just monitored those accounts and seen if there's anything he could do to make money with it. Yeah.
Or anything. Blackmails. Gather info. Expose people for being the scumbags they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a non-badger makes a good point. You'd think that they would track their employees' public IPs if being accessed remotely, and they'd know who should have access to those credentials. They certainly should. I'm sure they've probably tightened up security quite a bit since this kid pwned them.
But you know how many people they have, clients they've got.
Hey, this is John Smith calling from Twitter. I need your password. I need your Twitter password.
Yeah.
I need it for
Fall for
important.
those phishing things all the time. That's why they do. That's why they still use them. People wouldn't use them if they didn't work.
Yeah, phishing is becoming more and more popular as less and less people click on emails now, and some of the engagements I actually have coming up are going to be phishing, which should be fun for me. I've always liked that social engineering shit. It's fun.
Interesting. It's what con men and criminals and undercover police officers and spies, they all use the same techniques.
Indeed.
It's a lightweight form of hypnosis. And
yeah, I was making a joke. I know he didn't get him from Elon directly. He actually got the creds through the Twitter support tool, and he got access to the Twitter support tool by calling up Twitter with the name of an employee, pretending to be them, and then getting his password reset, and then accessing the Twitter support tools, which is also stupid. It's like when an attack is so stupid that it shouldn't work and it works, you kind of question some of these companies' security.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, man. It's just sad. That should never work, ever.
Yeah. Well, Musk is the richest man in the world, I believe, and until
him and Bezos keep going back and forth.
And somebody actually shot down recently. I think it was the Facebook guy, because most of his wealth, Zuckerberg, is actually tied up in Facebook stock.
$7 billion.
He lost like $7 billion in a day, and he still got billions and billions and billions. It's not like he's hurting, but to lose
it's all
7,
imaginary.
It really is. But when that imaginary money can be cashed out for real money, yeah, I think it's pretty hilarious.
Well, like Donald Trump always says, he's worth like double what he really is. Because his name can be used for marketing. He can put his name on whatever worth more. So that's why he overvalues his company for some reason.
Well,
which actually, he's got an argument there,
Musk got in trouble a while ago when he was the CEO of Tesla for tweeting claims about Tesla that couldn't be proven.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they fined him, but the fine was so much less.
The SEC fined him.
I know, it was like a freaking $5,000 fine to a guy who loses $7 billion in a day. It's like
the SEC is in bed with the corporations. When this country was founded, a limited liability corporation, a LLC, they weren't supposed to last for more than 10 years. Like I am divided between Minarchy and ANCAP. You know what I mean? About 50-50 for each one. Every time I hear a good idea for Minarchy, that worked, I start thinking about this country, because this country started off as one of the best minarchical institutions ever. And within even before, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and so, a lot of these rich guys,
I have a hard time.
Yeah, these rich guys and these companies screw with you, Jason. I think you've cut off your internet.
Square in the circle with that.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, it's something. I'm back. Everything went off for a second.
Okay. So what I was saying is these companies are able to get away without paying taxes and stuff simply because they'll take out huge loans that then count as money they owe, so then they don't have to pay back. They don't have to pay taxes on money that they owe, but they still have access to that money. And they'll take out these huge loans at very low interest rates, which is going to screw with them if they raise the debt ceiling.
The way I feel about that is that everybody should be able to get tax breaks like the rich people. We shouldn't make the rich pay more taxes or pay their quote unquote fair share. Everybody should be able to get out of paying taxes. You know what I mean?
Well, but even Biden had a tax loophole where he was using a common one rich people use, where they offset their assets in a certain way.
I bet.
What was it? Biden. I forgot what it was, but.
Well, if you work for yourself, you actually get penalized.
I think it's called PPLI, if memory serves.
And Donald Trump took that away, and now they're going to put it back in because they're not going to renew the Trump tax breaks. I mean, there's a marriage penalty, there's a working by owning your own business, working for yourself, penalty, self-employed. I mean, it's meant to have drones and sheeple. It's not meant to have actual citizens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because when I did freelance
The way
journalism, I made over, I think, the minimum at 1 year because I was doing school at the same time, and they were trying to take like 50% of my entire check from that. And I think it was the first time I had to pay taxes because I was like, oh my God, they're really taxing me, even though it's like all because it's my own money.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Fed, 1913. That's when they did it. The island, whatchamacallit?
Jason, you keep cutting out.
The Rockefellers and everybody.
Yeah.
Dean Peck is talking about it right now.
I think you just de-anonymized Dean, but yeah. I'm just kidding. Their name is there. I was just joking. We took almost zero income for 2 years. Yeah. That's so.
Well, now they want to end the gig economy because they're trying to, with this new thing they just passed, the infrastructure bill. Any transaction over $600. First of all, they're doubling the size of the IRS, and any transaction over $600 they want to track.
They're also planning on auditing every tax return rather than just selecting random ones.
Wait, what?
Auditing every tax return.
So now I'm definitely going to be audited?
Everybody's going to be audited. Dude, they're going to have nothing else to do. They're hiring there's like 70,000 IRS employees now. They want to hire another 80,000.
Why?
Audits for you, and audits because the government doesn't have any money.
What exactly is an audit? Is that when they take money from you?
Audit is where they take a microscope, stick it way up your ass, and wonder where all your money went.
Right, like
you got to have all your receipts, all your everything. It's horrible.
Yeah, I'm being audited right now. You can't. That's why garnish your wages and take your money.
I'll get money under the table.
Or put you in jail.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're trying to stop.
One of the reasons they want to be able to track crypto.
For the government for everything I do.
That's why they want to track crypto.
And that's against the Constitution. It should be
a lot of the Constitution is gone. The Constitution has been gone for like the past 40 years. They want every bank transaction $600 or more instead of 10,000 or 9,000, whatever it's at right now. They want to track.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is insane. And when was this?
So you pay your back in the yeah. Well, it only went through the House right now. It hasn't gone through the Senate. It's not going to get by the Senate, I don't think. But you never know. It's $3.3 trillion over the next 10 years.
That's $80 billion for next year just to bolster the IRS.
And if it doesn't succeed, they're going to blame the GOP.
Yep.
Well,
of course.
GOP did this. It's like stop footing in other things that don't need to be there.
Pork is the reason none of the shit gets passed and needs to get passed. You have a bill, and then in order to get it passed, you make some deals.
You're looking at yourself to lie on it.
Yeah, but you think, with all these things, they just slip this bill is 5,000 pages or 4,000 pages or whatever. They just slip in, and the NFA and the Fed, you know what I mean? Just 2 lines, bro, in there. So I need to retract some laws instead of making more new ones.
Yeah, this is getting out of hand. I kind of am hoping that the government fails.
Yeah,
so we can start a new one.
They definitely need a new one.
Isn't that what Antifa's doing? They're trying to destroy it so they can rebuild it in their own.
Yeah, but
let's go. Let's
go
march with Antifa.
They want communism.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of communism.
I love their logic. If you say
communism will be worse than what we got right now, they just hope they'll be the ones in power.
If you say anything about fascism, they assume in their head automatically goes to the notion of like Hitler, like killing people and executing those who went against his order, and final solutions and invading other countries and like rights.
They're not well educated. They don't know history. Like most leftists and most commies, they don't know anything.
They'll be like, well, it's like as if it's set in stone. Like there's only one fascism, and that's Hitler's. Even though Benito Mussolini's
created fascism, and he was a socialist.
Yeah,
Fascism and socialism are so closely related. That's
I
why
read
they hate
the
each other so
Fascist
much.
Manifesto.
Right back.
I was like, okay, all right. I read the Fascist Manifesto and I was like, wow, this is very progressive.
It is. It's crazy.
It's true. So there's like lots of.
You didn't spell fascist right.
Oh goddamn! My quick typing.
Fascist.
You're a fascist.
I'm a fascist.
How do you spell fascist?
It's like a fascist, but for facts.
No, I forgot the S because I'm a doof. You're a fascist. You're a fascist.
Every time I get called a fascist, now I just go like, "Yeah, what's wrong with that? You're a communist." Yeah, but that wasn't true communism. Well, this isn't. You never saw true fascism.
You've never seen true democracy, for we have a representative democracy and not a direct one. Then again, if we had a direct one, not everybody would go to the polls every day to vote on every issue. So.
That's fine. I mean, you don't need that. Oh, communist. Karl Marx. I'm Karl Marx now.
Yes, you are.
Did you see Delilah looking at the camera?
Yes. So, yeah, the IRS is increasing their funding, and they're likely going to screw over a lot of people. The thing is, Biden's like, hey, if you make less than a certain amount of money, it's not going to affect you. You'll be fine. And then they go around and they give the IRS all this funding to go audit all the past tax returns of everybody. It's like, I get the government needs money to function, and they don't want to raise the debt ceiling, even though they have to, because it's going to screw over rich people if they do. But, I mean, come on, man. Come on.
I like to see them try to audit me. I'll fight that. I'll go to court, and when they try to arrest me, they're like, you can't because I'm protesting. I'm protesting these taxes. And if you arrest me, you're preventing me from protesting.
So do we live in a democracy or a republic, or neither?
I'll answer even more broadly. We live in a regime.
Yeah. Anywho, yeah, I'm not a big fan of IRS money, taking my money. Anyway, back to InfoSec shit. So we got a lot of stuff getting hacked lately. You know, it's a combination between stupidity, not caring, and just like laziness, I think.
How much ransomware do you think is coming from state actors?
If you're talking Russia, I would say a large portion of it. And the thing is,
because $5 trillion, that's like a good, that's a large country's GDP, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if they're getting that, like there was 550 million just this year, Bitcoin this year. So that's got to be what, 2-point-something trillion.
It's a big business. Ransomware a big business.
So that could be funding a lot of stuff.
It could be funding everything from sexploitation to drugs and all sorts of shit. We don't know. We don't know where the money's going. We just know that it's not going in my pocket. Not yet. Jason, let's start our own op. Autumn, you're going to be our tech support. And
well, AP was talking about doing Mr. Robot, and that sounds good to me.
Leaving an fsociety.dat file on a company server and then eventually planning the downfall of society.
The Devos and the Bilderbergs, yeah. And if the Fed, end them all. Why not?
I mean, if you think about it, like, a lot of things need to be reformed anyway. Like, you think about the prison system. It's a complete failure.
Yeah, prison is horrible. That. War on drugs.
Yeah, war on drugs. There's
public schools.
Yeah. Like,
Healthcare.
There's a lot of things that need to be, like, by the time you reform everything, what's that? I don't remember the name, but it's that philosophy of that Greek ship where you replace every piece on the ship. Eventually, is it still the same ship? So at that point, why not just build a new ship? Why bother replacing parts when you could just build a better ship? Not one's constricted by old time.
The shovel
This
analogy.
one's too rotten. They haven't retracted. Here's what I was thinking: when we start a new government, you got to have. They were talking about this on Timcast tonight, talking about sunset laws. That's what I was saying all the time. The American Revolution. That's what they said. They should have said, in 50 years, all the laws go back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
How they started, everything. A law shouldn't be able to be passed forever. It's almost impossible to repeal a law. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
It's just insane.
Well, it's really hard to change laws is the problem.
To even change a law.
Yeah. Because when you amend a law, it is a whole process, man. It's not like you just write a new one and replace the old one.
Exactly.
That's why.
Well, it's easier. It should be that easy to write a law. That's the problem.
That's why it's.
Look, how can you have a 5,000-page bill that nobody has read the whole thing? That shouldn't be okay. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be able to just pass that.
What if we do,
or even vote on it, or even.
What if we do something similar to like Socrates, like where he thought, wasn't it Socrates that thought that the educated should be able to vote? Well, everyone can vote, but
that's originally what this country had.
Everyone can vote, but
it had landowning white men could vote, and that was it.
What if everyone can vote, and the only way you can be voted into office is if you match like a very specific constitutional requirement? Stipulation.
Well, that was also part of the thing with the age limit for president, and also none of these. There was never supposed to be a political caste of people.
Parties.
There weren't supposed to be career.
Oh yeah.
Politicians. You were supposed to. It was supposed to be just part of your growing up or revolving being a public servant. That's why they always say public service. Yeah. Well, it wasn't even supposed to be revolving door. You were supposed to serve as part of your growing up. You go to college. You get educated. You run for office. Maybe you win, maybe you don't. You go to Congress or the Senate for 2 to 6 years. You come back, you open a business. That's how it was supposed to be. You weren't supposed to be a politician. And we weren't even supposed to, like I said, we weren't supposed to have corporations for more than 10 years. All this stuff is so far off the rails, it's crazy. And never mind the Fed.
So basically, it's supposed to be limited to prevent anything from getting too much power or used to too much power.
Exactly. That's the whole reason why I have a representative democracy, form of government instead of a democracy. Why we have a republic.
Yeah. Going back to the InfoSec shit for a minute. There's an article I forgot to post. Microsoft's Auto Discover protocol has been found to be leaking hundreds of thousands of credentials online.
Whoops.
The TLDR is if you run Exchange servers, they have this Auto Discover protocol that lets mail clients know where it is at. So if you want to go find where the Exchange server is, so you can check your mail or something, if you're like an end user, it helps you find it. So it'll register autodiscover.domainname.topleveldomain. So autodiscover.franktressa.com, right? And then what people did was they registered autodiscover.com. Or autodiscover.ch. And a lot of these Exchange servers, because they're configured by morons, ended up leaking credentials to anybody listening on that autodiscover top-level domain. So if you bought a domain like autodiscover.net, right? And then some idiot has a mail server called mail.myclient.net, and they misconfigure it like most do, and they just click next rather than actually configure it properly. It's going to just spit out credentials to the default .tld. So if it's a .net, it will just send all their credentials to autodiscover.net.
I know I've said this before, but the default software developers need to start making the default setting of software secure. It should come out of the box, set up secure. Agreed. And you should have to unclick stuff and set it to be not secure versus the other way around.
Agreed.
So you have to go and harden everything.
Apparently, somebody set up autodiscover.ch, which is Switzerland's top-level domain, back in 2015, and they even set it to use Microsoft Online DNS servers, which is kind of funny. And nobody knows who owns it because you don't have to publicly disclose that in that country. You can use a private.
Well, that's why everybody trusted Proton Mail and Proton VPN.
But Proton fucked people over recently. Proton
I
actually
know.
they answered government. They claimed they would never answer a government thing, and they had a canary file on their server that said if they ever remove that canary file, it means they've actually answered a government's thing, and then they removed the canary file when they answered the government thing. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, the U.S. government loves to buy really cheap shit, and we have this lowest bidder model that has screwed people over constantly. So now we are buying drones from a maker called DJI, which makes perhaps the shittiest drones you can buy if you're an end user. I've had friends who had DJI drones, and they literally fell out of the sky while flying and just crashed and destroyed themselves, and were not covered by any kind of warranty.
In China lately?
Yeah, so we decided to buy a whole bunch of those drones from China. Even though we're always talking about how we're not supposed to buy Chinese tech for like networking because of what happened to Huawei, but apparently it's fine for us to buy our freaking drones that are using like cellular technology to shoot video files thousands of miles away to some bunker where some Air Force guys are controlling them. It's fine to buy those.
Well, we've shipped our manufacturing over to China. You want to know what wins wars? Two things: making the least amount of mistakes and your ability to manufacture weapons and food and whatever else. And we've shipped our manufacturing over to China.
Yeah, we really screwed the pooch, because when we don't have the ability to manufacture stuff anymore, we're completely dependent on other countries. But
the international corporations and the political elite and the regular financial elite have sold this country out long time ago.
Yeah.
They don't want their power to be.
It's like back in the 80s or even the 70s, man. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. So security through obscurity is a really interesting concept a Nani Badger brings up. It's essentially configuring things in such a way that's really hard for a bad guy to...
you can't hack it if you
can't figure it out. Yeah. It's along the same vein of thinking as people who write spaghetti code intentionally.
don't know what's there.
So nobody can replace them. But yeah, security through obscurity is stupid. Eventually people will figure shit out that you may think you're really clever about, whether it be through your own documentation or bragging. I think a lot of the time security professionals get screwed the same way that hackers get screwed, where they brag to their friends about what they did, and then they end up getting screwed because of it. Like, I know a sysadmin who used to go to the...
Well,
Yeah.
3 people can keep a secret if 2 are dead.
Exactly. I knew a guy who came to...
And then that person usually tells on themselves, so...
I knew a network administrator. He used to come to the NISEC meetups in New York, and he was talking about how brilliant his security through obscurity was in his network that he managed, and how nobody was going to figure out that he had changed the default port for SSH from like 22 to 2222, and like...
Yeah, you can let a port scan run.
I'm like, this guy's a freaking moron, and it's like... he's telling me how he uses default creds on everything because it's just easier to remember because nobody's going to be able to get into your shit.
But that's what that guy, what's his name? I can't remember his name now.
That guy who did that thing
is a big proponent of.
What, security through obscurity? That sounds like some GRC type shit.
He's a big security now. Twit TV. Steve Gibbon. He's a big security through obscurity guy.
GRC.
I just told you. Yeah, GRC. Yeah.
You know, he's on the attrition.org site for being an InfoSec
yeah, you told
charlatan.
Me about that.
Yeah. I actually pissed off the guy who runs that site recently, which was fun for me. Yeah, so this whole...
What'd you do that for? You do it on purpose or on accident?
This whole
the whole
freaking...
truth.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me lie.
I just had a false set in this thing, and I've dropped the...
Oh, you bastard.
I dropped the tension wrench.
Not the wrench. You're going to have to start all over.
Yeah, I got to start all over now. At least I know how to do it. I thought I had 4 pins, was 1 regular, but this lock only has 1 or 2 spools in it, which is way harder. That 3rd spool... put in, you actually have to do it. You actually have to do a specific technique to get it open. Otherwise, you'll be there all day.
Oh. Yeah. I have lost my train of concentration.
This one I can.
Steve
Oh,
Gibson.
you're talking about the guy for attrition.
Attrition.
Right.
I was doubting the whole existence of this Epic breach before it dropped. I thought it was bullshit based on the text file that had been released, and I got in an argument on Twitter with one of the people who was talking about it. He happens to be one of the founders of the company that bought Metasploit, and I didn't know who he was based on his name. His name is Chad, and I was kind of like saying, I have no idea who you are, you don't know what you're talking about, and it turned out he did, and that I was wrong, and I lost a
Chad.
Freaking
sounds
Chad.
like a dick.
You'd think with a name like that, they'd be a dick. He actually turned out to be a pretty nice guy.
Hey guys, my name's Chad.
Yeah, Chad actually turned out to be a pretty nice guy, despite the fact that he's definitely an Antifa person. I guess they're not all bad, but he was actually pretty nice. You know, not a real shitbird. Security through obscurity with open source versus closed source software. Both have their pros and cons. Closed source software, since nobody can see the source code, you know, you have this whole thing in your mind that it's going to be safe, it's going to be secure, because nobody can see what's actually going on. But at the same time, if somebody attaches a debugger and maybe finds some place where you can put some input, and they find a nice little buffer overflow, they overwrite some memory, and you know, they find the nice little jump ESP point, hop into a DLL file, bypass some AMC shit, all that fun stuff. I think they deserve the money for the 0 days that they get, and they get a lot of them. Actually, that kind of leads me into the next thing I wanted to talk about. Was this is the year of the 0 day. 2021 has had the most 0 day exploits on record. At least 66 0 days have been found this year, which is double the amount of last year, and this year is not over yet. Most of them can actually be traced back to financially motivated actors. There are 0 day clearinghouses like Zerodimium, where you can actually sell exploits that you find and make money without publicly disclosing it to the people who might actually be able to fix it. It's a very highly contentious thing to do. A lot of people won't like you if you do this, so don't use the same handle if you're selling exploits. But yeah, 0 day market's a big thing. And tying that back to security through obscurity, open source projects are inevitably going to have bugs because they're written by coders who not everybody knows how to do secure coding, and even those who do still sometimes screw up. Sometimes it's not even the coder's fault. Sometimes
well, you want to know security through obscurity? It shouldn't be your only to rely as that as your only layer of defense is silly.
But if you were to,
you should always harden your stuff, making it not so people can't look at it like hide NSID thing. You know, hiding that it can, you know what I mean?
Indeed.
Or the script kiddies that don't know to look for it. You know, just hiding it can't hurt. You know. All it says is that somebody clicked the wrong thing, or they have something you don't want to look at. Which, if they're trying to break into your system, anyways, there's also the opposite of security through obscurity. There's the security through blending in with everybody else. I mean, both are valid but don't rely on that. Just you got to harden everything. You got to harden stuff.
Agreed. So I agree. Security through obscurity is good in that it's one layer, but you should definitely have multiple layers if you're going to be doing things
multiple layers and backups.
And tying that more to open source versus closed source, I am a big proponent of open source software and GPL license.
Me too.
The issue that I see happen more and more often now is that companies will buy whatever company makes the open source software that they like and then close the source. And then somebody has to fork it and make another version of it that, yes, it could still use the code that's been published, but then all the updates and all the whole point of having a GPL license goes out the window because now when people are making updates to the software, they're not getting pushed to the populace that uses it.
Look what happened with GitHub.
Right.
You know, Microsoft comes and buys something, and Google comes and buys something, or what happened with Audacity not that long ago.
Funny thing about GitHub, the GitHub purchase. One of the reasons they did that is they are building this AI to help coding, And if you're using the plugin in your IDE that they've put out, you essentially have an autocomplete feature for when you're...
Or training the AI.
Yeah, and the autocomplete feature will pull random code from GitHub if it thinks it's similar to what you're trying to do and put it there for you. And sometimes the code that it pulls is not very secure in and of itself. It's like code that's got a buffer overflow in it, or just poorly coded
Well,
code.
that's the other thing. You shouldn't be able. They should teach secure coding as the only way to code.
I think the issue with that is just getting the concept.
It's not
of how
any
to
harder
code.
to code secure than it is not to code secure.
That's
except
not
you're
true.
taught not how to secure. Well, it
Not
depends.
true.
It depends how complicated the problem is.
Even something as simple as tossing a try catch onto an error is like not even taught in school. Like you go into and you learn like C++ in college, they're not going to teach you
Right.
why a buffer overflow is bad at all. They're not going to teach you that.
But that's what I'm saying. They should let you know that. They should. It's not any harder to learn. The same. Look, you got 5 pieces of code. It's 7 to program, or 7 to 8 to program it secure for a small loop, right? And not using silly stuff.
The sad fact about our industry is that most of these exploits, most of these companies that are getting hacked all the time, they're all low-hanging fruit. They're all exploits that they're just out there, and anybody could pull down the exploit for it and run it against it. It just happens to be the bad guys who are doing it. But literally anybody... I remember a while back, somebody had, I think it was the pro FTP thing, where it was rampant, that all the people running this FTP server were just getting popped left and right. Somebody wrote a self-propagating patch that would go out and patch all these servers.
Yeah.
And it just, like, overnight, it spread like a worm and just secured the shit out of all these... Not secured the shit out of them, but, like, turned off the exploit. So people couldn't use it.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that. Yeah. Well, that's actually a good use of talent. But
Right.
but it shouldn't be. My point is it shouldn't be vulnerable in the first place. That's just the whole thing is, especially if we're going to be relying on these for infrastructure. It's just like, it's bad enough when it's your personal data. You know what I mean? That gets screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just your social life. It's horrible.
Right. I think actually Anana Badger brings up another good point, that schools shouldn't be the one who are training these people. They should bring back internships and training like they do for vocational jobs.
The company should be the one teaching them. Yeah.
I think learning coding in a classroom environment is insane. It's not a good place to
No, you can't learn to code in a classroom environment. You just got to do it. You have to...
You got to sit there. You got to sit there with your IDE. You got to put it in dark
plug
mode.
away. Yep.
Just sit around and just
sit on it.
Lots of Googling and hitting Stack Overflow, and then copying and pasting code that should work, and then trying to figure out why the hell it doesn't work.
Yep. That's how I taught myself C++.
Cool.
I mean, I'm not that good at it, but
I don't think anybody
I can use it.
I learned it back when we used Borland C++ as the compiler. And we used to start things with...
C++.
We used to start almost every program with...
Well, I originally learned it basic, then I did Pascal. What?
I was just saying we used to start every program with, like, void main. And then when I went to college again years later, I went to go code that way. And they're like, void main, you need to return. You need to use int main and then return at the end. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know that. And this is how I've been coding for years.
Well, that's because that's how the G++ and Clang is.
Yeah.
The old Borland was different.
Yeah, it's also a whole object-oriented code versus just like static code you're going to use in a console.
Yeah, well, I'm more of a... I like C++, but I program procedurally. You know what I mean? I don't like the object-oriented way of programming. I like programming procedurally. It's way easier to read. For me, it is. I don't know.
I do like using modules to kind of speed things up, though. Code that's already been pre-written, just importing it. Unfortunately, that...
No, yeah, that's fine, but you can do that... Yeah, well, it does. But you don't have to program objectively to do that. You can...
Yeah, it's use functions that you create.
It's hybrid between, procedurally and it's like a hybrid between procedural and objective. Because you use the functions, but you don't use the object-oriented format and stuff.
Yeah,
where your main thing is like 4 lines long and everything else is everywhere else.
Yeah. I hardly ever compile anything anymore. Unless I'm like doing it on Linux and it's some program that I need to run, that I'm just going to use like
Yeah.
make that's already built in. But I'm very rarely
Right.
compiling my own code anymore. Now
Make
everything I'm doing is like Python because
is
it's so much
really
easier.
handy.
It's a difference
It's
between interpreted and
make
compiled.
files are make files are pretty poorly developed, documented. I mean, like if you try looking how to make uh, a make file for
Mm-hmm.
more than a couple dependencies or like end curses or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it isn't very easy. It's I had to look up. I spent all do it, and I
Yeah.
finally got it done. But
One of the things most people miss when they're compiling code on Linux is that you have to have that build essential package installed, and if you don't
yeah, yeah,
have that
absolutely.
installed,
You
your
gotta have
shit
that to have almost everything.
right. And
Because
people,
I like building my own software.
yeah. It used to be like the kind of trope. It's like, have you compiled your own kernel? Then if not, you're not a real techie. It's like bullshit. You're not. You know,
No, well,
but
all you gotta do is you did. That's ridiculous. It's just it's uh snooty. It's being snooty because literally to compile your own kernel, you get the source code, you get the dependencies, you type make or build and make sudo make install clean
mhm.
or whatever, and that's it. You didn't do anything fancy. You did like 3 extra lines of
Yeah,
code.
agreed. Um,
I mean, commands. I mean, you did 3 extra lines of commands. You know,
yep.
you didn't do anything fancy. I do it all the time.
Okay. And last but not least, Lithuania is urging people to throw away their Chinese phones. According to Lithuania's defense ministry, per the government, almost all 5G phones that have been sent from Chinese manufacturers contain serious security flaws, if not backdoors. They have also got several phones that have built-in censorship tools that will actively censor searching for terms such as free Tibet or Voice of America. And they found that the Xiaomi ZIAOMI phone that they tested was transferring encrypted phone usage data to a Singapore server. Huawei and Xiaomi, of course, deny all these allegations, but at the same time, they apparently say they do have a censorship module, but when they ship it to other countries, it's disabled by default in the EU. The Lithuanian authorities said that users should get rid of these phones as fast as possible and warned them that non citizens of Lithuania are also at risk.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, here people will complain about China doing it, but they don't care when AMD or Intel does it with vPro and DMT.
Mm-hmm.
Those are backdoors. I got on this ThinkPad right now. I've got a vPro on it, a
Yeah, I,
vPro chip. Get the DMT off there. It's got a 3G cell phone in there that they can access whatever they want whenever they
right.
want. And unless I get rid of the BIOS on it, I mean that's why I got did the BIOS, the C BIOS on my other computer, on my Lenovo um, little Chromebook to put Linux on it because it
I,
got rid of
I'm
all that.
I'm wondering about these the Obama phones that everybody's got if they've got some kind of hard coded backdoor in them because
They do. Israel did a thing on
they
it.
did.
I sent him a thing. Yeah, he sent one, and I showed him. I was like, I got that phone. I had to get all the stuff off there. It was a pain because you made it unusable. You couldn't use the phone. It pops all the time. Just when before you make a call, pop up, and it was sending data back. It was just a nightmare
Yeah, have you heard about the warrants that that
to
have
use.
been sent to Google lately? Apparent
No.
they're doing keyword warrants now, where they can actually ask Google, "Hey, you have anybody who searched for these specific terms?" And the terms might be like the name of somebody who got killed, or perhaps a map of an area where a crime was committed. Um, Essentially, it's a giant privacy violation if the government can just look at your search history on Google
I don't see how
to
that's.
try and tie you to a crime that they otherwise wouldn't
I
be
don't
able
see
to.
how that. I don't see how that's legal, constitutional, anything.
It shouldn't be, but I guess
Well,
the
we're
law
living
is
in a
flexible.
post-constitutional United States and have been for some time. I've been telling people for at least 20 years that we live in a police that just haven't announced it. You
It's
know,
kind of funny.
Well, have the government or the police come down on you and see how much luck you have. If you're all by yourself and you don't have any money.
Right.
I mean,
Look what happened to
we're
Marcus.
supposed to have royalty in this
That's what
country,
I'm
and
saying.
you go to court, you have to stand up. And if you don't, you get contempt of court.
Yeah.
So, like, police, not just police, but like people like the judges themselves have way too much power in this country, and you can't really talk back to them.
Right?
Well, the prosecutors, the DAs, the defense attorneys, like they're people aren't becoming defense attorneys. There's not enough defense attorneys to defend everybody. That's why they say to you, just plead guilty, because I can't defend you unless you got way more money than you have.
They're having an issue with the attorneys at the border. They don't have enough attorneys for each one of these migrants who wants to come in.
Not enough attorneys.
Yeah. Yeah. The other Google thing that's really creepy as hell was the police are able to do a geofence warrant. So if a crime is committed in a neighborhood and they don't have any suspects whatsoever, they're going to go to Google and Apple and say, give me everybody whose cell phone was in that area during the time of the crime. And then they can individually go and interview each one of those people.
Wow.
Yeah, but Google can also decline. Like, Apple had this situation, and Apple declined to give information to the government before. So there could be some semblance of hope.
No, they've complied with geofence.
That's not police state tactics or anything, is it?
Yeah.
Nothing to worry about here.
Both Apple and Google have complied with geofence warrants. So if you're going to commit a crime, keep your phone at home.
But how will I contact Uber on the way home from committing my crime?
Yeah, they're also called reverse location searches.
People have done that. People have done that. They've taken taxi cabs to go rob a bank and use their credit card to pay for the taxi cab.
Wow.
Oh, you'd be surprised how dumb.
I can imagine how dumb somebody would be, like, using Uber to go to a crime scene, like getting an Uber to go home. It's like, really? But yeah.
How was your day? Oh, just destroying cities, killing people, chilling.
Another thing that gives people away on their phones is leaving Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on all the time, because you're just broadcasting everything you've ever connected to before, and anybody with any ability to run promiscuous mode can see all that shit. So
yeah, well, I have a program that when I leave my house, it should turn the Wi-Fi off. It wasn't working that one day because I got a new phone. The day we went up to the hospital, I got a new phone, and I forgot to turn it on when it installed. So I have it installed now. So that's why I was surprised it was on.
Now, one of my stupid projects I did back in college was it was Arduino and Raspberry Pi based, and essentially whenever you were within range of the device that was listening and it picked up your MAC address, it would run whatever program you specified, like unlocked or whatever.
Nice.
But I had issues with it where the Mac on the Androids and even the Apple phones now randomizes. Like the Mac is supposed to be a unique identifier, but I guess too many people have been collecting that data, so now they are randomizing the Mac. But usually the first couple of like the manufacturer ID will stay the same.
That's going to should be the same.
The other part changes. So I was
the last half of it, yeah.
So I was trying to do it just based on manufacturer ID for a while, but then other people's phones could trigger it. So I was like, this is a stupid program. So I stopped doing it. Yeah, signal-proofed cases are cool, but, I mean, yeah. RFID is becoming rapidly adopted in a lot of cities now. Like the transit here actually will let you pay with RFID. You literally just put your phone up against the thing and it scans the NFC. And I know NFC is not really the same as RFID, but it's a type of RFID, so we're gonna just go with that.
Okay.
It's got this. Doesn't have the same vulnerabilities.
I haven't tried any attacks against it, honestly. I was thinking of doing a man-in-the-middle type thing, recording a bunch of like NFC tags as they're used, and then see if I can do a replay attack. But I haven't gotten around to it. Also, because I'm very lazy.
Well, all you have to do is just take, and if you got any credit cards, take them if they have the little tap to pay thing, and your phone should have an NFC on those. If you want, I'll give you a hand with it if you want.
Yeah, that could be a fun project. So there already are cases of people cloning passports. The chip that's in there, it was not designed with security in mind, apparently. So it is easy to clone a passport chip. I think the thing that gives away a lot of these fake passports is just the quality of the paper and stuff that people use in them. But
yeah, the government tend to use nice ones. But that was the whole thing with the chips on the credit cards and the debit cards. Was supposed to make it more
more
secure,
secure.
but the chips are actually more flawed. They're actually less secure than these stripes.
I don't know about that. I've read up a bunch on chip and pin when it was
That's
first
what I heard.
implemented, and it's actually pretty damn hard to
Or they're
clone
just
those
as
things. They require some pretty expensive hardware.
right. But I'm saying
it's not like your regular Joe is going to be able to do it.
I'm not talking about cloning. I'm talking about encryption. The encryption, the data when they grab the data, or if there's a chip reader. They slap the chip reader or the thing over there. It's the same easy thing to crack or something. There's a vulnerability in there somewhere.
If you could send me
like
some
was
info
right
on that,
now.
I'd like to read it when you get a chance.
I'll look for it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That sounds like a fun project. Mag stripes are incredible.
Because it was a big. Because it wasn't like 3 months after they came out.
Yeah.
What are? Oh, mag stripes. Mag stripes are super
on
easy.
credit cards. Those are really easy to clone. You can actually build a mag stripe copier using a cassette tape recorder, and I believe there was actually a prison break once where the guy
it's the same magnetic heads.
Yeah, he cloned a guard's card by using the mag stripe from reader built into his Walkman type thing that he'd taken apart, and then he was able to do a playback using this Walkman or some shit. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but he managed to clone the card, and it's just a way he could get out of the prison, and that was fucking cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder how what kind of people it takes to think about things like that.
I've always been really fascinated by the stuff that prisoners do when they're in there. From the simple, from the shanks and things that they make to the actual... I remember once some prisoners took parts from broken computers and they put them in the ceiling so that they could actually get on those computers when the guards weren't around, and the computers were completely obscured and hidden up in the ceiling of wherever room that they were doing their general work in, and they were going on the internet through the LAN, and yeah, it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of smart people in jail.
Yeah, the guy over who does Technology Connections, which is a pretty good YouTube channel where the guy takes stuff apart and explains how it works. He was showing the kind of electronics you're allowed to have in prison, and they have these video game systems that are completely transparent. It looks kind of like a Game Boy, but it's completely transparent
TVs,
plastic.
radios.
The TVs are completely transparent, and yeah, it's cool shit.
Well, because they used to hide stuff in them. They used to hide contraband in them.
Right.
And it was too much time consuming for the guards to go through and search stuff like that.
Indeed.
That's why they just ended up putting people in 24-hour, 23-1's AgSeg, because people are, necessity is the mother of invention, and if people would find a way to do something, they'd find a way to do something no matter what. So they just gave them, basically put them in the hole for all the time, for the real hardened cases. Because there's just if you're young enough for long enough, you're just done.
Yeah.
There's just lost causes. I hate to say it.
It's his eye.
At least the system's not set up to
That scared me.
Good topic. All right.
You mean the internet's not going to be around forever? On Honey Badger? We actually need books. Oh, you got one. Look at that.
It's signed by the author too, and I got his email address. After Collapse, I have not read it yet. I'm lazy. I should, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of these books about what to do when society has failed, how we're going to rebuild. These bug out books, tactical shit.
Reading books is hard.
Yeah, I don't have time for that kind of stuff.
So, highly recommend 2 TV shows. One is called
Fluffy.
Stuck with Hackett, and it is about it's not really about anything. A guy builds shit out of garbage, but I really enjoy it. Another one was actually Junkyard Wars back in the day. I know I said 2, but now I'm going to have 3. And the third one was called The Colony. And The Colony was really cool. It was like a reality show where they put people...
They canceled it too early. Yeah, the guy made the professor made the radio out of the coffee can and the wire, and he would just... Yeah, I saw that.
And they built a water...
It was a little corny, though. They did some acting and stuff, but they did some good stuff.
I like the show not for the acting or the like the scenes where like the bad guys come, but the shit they build is fucking fascinating.
But just how they did stuff, yeah.
The water filtration system,
yeah.
the shower that they built that was hot.
That was really the shower. That was cool.
That was some cool shit.
Yeah.
Where was this again?
The Colony. It was a TV show that.
It was a show. It was on like Discovery Channel or.
Yeah, it's on the Plex server, babe.
For like back in 2009, 2010.
Indeed.
Something like that.
It was a good show. I like shows where they teach you how to build stuff, really. Junkyard Wars was just amazing. It was actually a ripoff of a British show that was similarly named.
Yeah, a lot of
those
shows are.
Competition
Have you
between
guys
2 teams,
seen
and they have to build shit in
Utopia?
a junkyard. Yeah.
No, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, it's good. I watched. It's only 8 episodes because they canceled it because they released it during a pandemic, which was a bad idea because that's kind of what the show's about. But there's a British, British show.
Not a badger. Could you maybe a link to that? I've never heard of that before. I usually use Z Library when I'm looking for books because it's really easy to find and they have a shit ton of books, but haven't heard of that one.
Utopia?
Ooh. No, Utopia I've heard of. The guy was recommending a place that has books.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to know what it was.
Screen.
Yeah. But I'm pretty much out of shit to talk about, really. I do have one story before we go. A number of years ago, I was at this this bullshit wannabe hacker conference in New York City called the Cyber Investing Summit, right? The only reason I went there was because Kevin Mitnick was going to be there, and I managed to talk to the lady who runs the thing, and she believed I was an actual 2600 author, which I technically am, and I told her I wanted to research Kevin for an article. And since Kevin had essentially been let out of jail due to the efforts of people from 2600, I guess he agreed. And I got to interview the dude. But while I was waiting to interview Kevin, while other shit was going on, I came across this gentleman who was what I call an InfoSec charlatan. And he obviously had no idea about technology, even though he had written a book for people, for older people, about staying safe online. And he actually works at a company that develops technology that finds cell phones in prisons. And while I was there at the conference looking at this gentleman's book, I looked at the website the book had. And on the website, I found on my little phone even, I wasn't even on a laptop, I was just SSH'd into my box. I found that his website had some vulnerabilities, so I let him know, and he was very nice about it. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make sure that we get you a good bug bounty for this." You know what my bug bounty was? An autographed copy of his book in the mail.
Oh wow, nice.
And not.
I was gonna say that time you interviewed Kevin Mitnick, but it's actually different. Same conference though.
It was that's where I met the guy, and he was just a complete scam artist.
Yeah.
He actually asked me to review his latest book.
Was his book any good?
If you're an old person who doesn't know anything about technology, it's a good book. It teaches you how not to get suckered by common scams. But if you're a technology person and you're reading his book, it's kind of shit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well.
Anywho, that's that. Anybody have anything they'd like to talk about before we end the cast?
No, I think we're at a good closing point.
Excellent. All right, guys.
Oh, we've been on for what?
2 hours.
2 hours, 10 minutes.
Yeah, man, we're good.
5 minutes, something like that.
All right, guys.
That's a good one. Good cast in.
Mm-hmm.
Later. Good night.
All.
Good night.